We form an identity with a story that we've told ourselves, and this is so dangerous. We do things a certain way and we do it so effortlessly. We think it's just us, like this is me. But is it really? Is it really you? What's good? Bisi here. This is the Legit Podcast. You can do me a solid and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, hit that subscribe button. Man, today I was thinking, when you're like head down, focused on something, and you look back at how far you've come and you're like, wow, look how far I've come. And I was just thinking about the Legit Podcast, the platform, and I realized that I did start 2 years ago on audio. And I started as, just wanting to hear people's stories and really being legit and real. And now it's YouTube. And before I started my YouTube channel, I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to say subscribe, like, comment, but subscribe, like, and comment and share with a friend. I didn't want to do all of that, but I'm just amazed and I'm just so grateful. So I just wanted to celebrate the Legit Podcast, the Legit platform. I wanted to celebrate you. Now, for real, I started doing this, I believe, at the end of 2020. So it's just been amazing. Honestly, not even what's happening on the outside, but how much I've grown. And I'm going to stop. Today, I wanted to talk about daddy issues, really how our, relationships with our family or our dads really affects our relationships, our dating relationships, our relationships in general. And, even if you have a great relationship with your dad, at the end of the day, our parents, our family, the community, they're all people and they just can't give us everything that we do need. And as they say that our parents did the best they could with what they knew and what they had at that point and moment. So if you're in the self-development space, this theory has gone pretty far and wide, which is the attachment style theory. And it just talks about how we experienced emotional attachment as kids, and how that is able to inform or affect how we experience that as adults. And so this was a theory that was birthed by a psychologist called Mary Ainsworth and a British psychologist, John Bowlby. And there's 4 of them. And the first one is secure, which just means your parent or whoever looked after you was very much in tune with what you needed and present and responsive. The second one is fearful avoidant, which just means you were in a fearful environment, like a detrimental, a dangerous environment, the one that always made you scared. And the third one is avoidant, where the parent was just distant. They were just abandoned, right? Not in tune, not available. And then the fourth one is anxious, which is inconsistent with what you needed as a child. I'm going to link a credible source where you can find more of this information. I believe there's a quiz that you can take to even see what your attachment style is. Now, practically, maybe your parent was emotionally abusive, verbally, physically abusive, or just unavailable or inconsistent, practically, whatever that looks like. What happens is our subconscious will always look out for things that is known and that feels familiar. And we form an identity with a story that we've told ourselves. And this is so dangerous, because when we form an identity with anything but what God has said about us and what is true according to what God says, it is detrimental, it is dangerous, because that is the path to which we live our lives and make our decisions. So sometimes we form an identity with a story that we've told ourselves and our subconscious has created. So for example, my parents got divorced when I was in my mid-teens, and I can remember clearly that I did not grieve over it. I promise you, I did not cry. What I told myself was that that is their business. It's not my business. It's their issue. It's their thing. It's not going to affect me in any way. So I never grieved it. But as I was having and developing relationships, I realized that I was very guarded, where I was trying to protect myself from having something not happen, or even creating stories where it would go like this, or if I do this, it would go like this. If I don't do this, it would go like this. Somebody also shared their story where they said that their dad used them and their siblings as pawns to get to their mom. And so, they will say certain things, and of course it's your dad. And so you believe them, they would say certain things that are really good things, really, that are affirming. But then that was only to use them, not because their dad really wanted to have a relationship with them. And so now in their dating life, when they do get with somebody, or they're dating in general period, or anybody really says something genuine that affirms them or makes them feel worthy, makes them feel good for a moment, they immediately go to defense mode because they don't want to seem gullible and be used again. And so they think that every guy, and so they feel like they're just telling lies, right? Another story was with somebody who their parent was just never there. I think they were there for a moment in time when they were younger, and then they just left, ghosted, gone. And so now in their relationships, whenever they get into an argument, they would say, I don't care if you leave, or you can leave. Well, leave then. That's what you guys always do. And so they always believe that guys would leave. Or what they would do is, when things are going so well and so good, I don't like using this word, but they self-sabotage. So where, they will create scenarios or amplify things or make things bigger than they are, and then they would leave before the other person can leave. Sometimes we also cling to things that we observe, like how your dad expressed love to your mom, or how in general the culture expresses love. And I want to talk about what we can do about this. And this really goes to unlearning. When we hear about unlearning and unlearning, what really is unlearning? Literally, we're doing these things and we have all these emotional attachments, styles, and we are receptive to certain things, or we do things a certain way, and we do it so effortlessly. We think it's just us, like, this is me. But is it really you? And so that's what it is. Like, it's in our subconscious so much that we don't even realize that it may be a problem. So what we want to do is bring our subconscious to the conscious, the things that we've clung to, like really do some introspection. I want to talk about writing a little bit. Now, when we put pen to paper, and I've said this before, when we put pen to paper, our brains are forced to stop and literally think about what we're writing and be truthful and honest. Listen, it's just you and the pen and the paper and God. And so putting pen to paper, like doing introspection. Why did you do this? Why did you react this way? Is it something that you have clung to? Is it something that you saw? Does it stem from somewhere? Sometimes we forget the whole scenario, or the first time that we did see it, or witness or experienced it. So what we want to do is bring our subconscious to the conscious and feed our minds with nothing but the truth, so much that becomes our conscious. So like this podcast that you're listening to right now, other podcasts, being in the self-development space, talking through with accountability partners, people that are also doing the work, all these things help. But also there's nothing more true than the word of God. Like I say, this is a faith-based platform. So I'll always refer you there. And I also always want to say that sometimes we feel like, man, it's not what I want to hear right now. We can search for answers always outside of us, but there's nothing but the truth and the assurance and the peace that God gives. And I always say, just the way we would ask or pose a question to a friend or a professional or somebody we feel like may help us, you can literally pose that same question to God. God, why do I do this? And sleep on it. Why did I react this way? Or write it down as a note to God and sleep on it. Read your words so you may see how, so you'll be able to be sensitive to how God is speaking. Another question I want you to think about is, what is your truth? And what is the truth? Is your truth the truth? And I'm not talking about your side of the story. Like, obviously there's your truth, what you believe to be true for you, your legit self. Like, absolutely. But sometimes, like when we talk about the story in our subconscious, like where the story I shared where the person felt like men will always leave or men are always lying, like everybody's a liar. Like, is that your truth or is the truth? Your truth, the truth. So think about the stories that you tell yourself, the stories that are circulating in your mind, negative self-talk in your mind, right? Is it your truth or it is the truth? Asking yourself that question. And also, you can't change what you're not aware of. So you have to be aware of it and intentional about bringing that subconscious to the conscious and then tackling it. Baby steps. Little by little, it can be very uncomfortable, and sometimes we may have to communicate it with the people that we're in relationship and community with, but it is amazing because one, everybody is going through this, and two, it actually allows us to have more genuine, more vulnerable, more transparent, authentic, in-depth relationships. It's amazing. So this is what I want to leave with you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I celebrate you today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for riding with me.